Shoptalk number 32. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about something that, I don't know, I just thought it'd be kind of nice to talk about how to read a piece of wood. Because I think it's important, and I think a lot of guitar makers don't have any concept of what a piece of wood went through in its life as a tree, or some of the characteristics that you can gather just from looking at a piece of wood.
Okay, and this is important because?
For stability in guitars. Okay. That's one reason. For, let's say you're chiseling something, if you know how to read a piece of wood, you'll know how it's going to react when you put the chisel in this direction or as opposed to that direction.
Right.
What else? I feel like just knowing your materials is being one with your materials.
Now, here's an interesting thing before we get into this.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm deciding to take up guitar building, and I order a set back and sides from Joe Blow and top from Susie Woozy, and
Susie Woozy.
Susie Woozy.
All right.
Whatever. I'm getting this wood already cut, a neck, blank. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, in some ways it probably doesn't, because the person that Susie Woozy and Joe Blow have probably gone through the troubles of like going through all this wood and making sure that there aren't defects or.
But what if they didn't know that well? What if they're making mistakes and you're getting pieces that you shouldn't be using and you're just trusting them?
There are a lot of woods sold for guitar making that probably shouldn't be, as far as stability and
then people are still making decent guitars with it.
Yeah.
So who cares? No, but like this is
to an extent. You're
to
right.
an extent, yeah. But what I'm saying is that some of what you're talking about here is as for somebody who's actually taking pieces of wood and cutting your own brace wood or resawing your own tops or sides, backs and sides, and yeah.
That's
like sometimes you have to just work with what you were given or sold.
But it's also good to know how to work with it.
Yeah. So it works both ways. Even if you were sold, like knowing now that this is weak here, you're saying, or it's going to react this way, then I can turn the piece of wood around. For example. Yeah. And make sure I cut off some of the stuff I want and make that the upper bout rather than the lower bout or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually find this is most useful when you're looking at a softwood. So like your top woods. Take this. For example, this one. This is a great place to start because like a spruce or something will tell you a lot about its life cycle just in the growth rings. So I
don't see any rings.
Good point. This is quarter sun. So the rings, the center of the tree is right here, and the rings go like this.
Okay.
So you're just seeing the cross section of the rings, right?
Right.
So each of these lines
represents a ring.
A slice of one of the rings.
Okay.
Each of these lines represents 1 year of growth. So you can count the lines in this piece, and you can determine how many years are in this piece.
Right.
Obviously the tree was bigger, so it was older than this.
Yeah.
But you can tell how many years old it was. You can also tell the seasons. So let's say there's so the lighter areas in between the dark lines are summer growth. So that's in the northern and southernmost parts. These lines indicate winter and summer, and the winter growth is basically just because growth just about stops because because it freezes or gets cold. So these dark lines are when the tree goes into hibernation.
Okay.
And then these lighter lines are, of course, in the summer when the water is going up and down the trees through these cells.
So this is darker here. and darker here. So it should be seasonal. We've had winter every year.
Yeah.
Because I know where this came from, and I know it had winter every year. So why wouldn't I see a dark line between each light line?
That's exactly it. Because the darker lines mean longer winters or harsher winters.
Okay.
And the lighter lines, the lighter dark lines, are probably shorter winters or just not as harsh on the trees.
Okay. So maybe less storms. It doesn't even have to be cold. It can be storms. It can be whatever.
Yeah, it could be. And if you have one growth ring that's really skinny, you'll know that summer was a hard summer for this tree.
Bad summer.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of these are so skinny.
Because
this piece came from here.
It is from here, yes.
Lots of dark lines, not very many happy white lines.
Yeah. But you can also tell going from, this is a little bit off quarter, but if you look at the end grain, let's get that camera on the end grain.
Okay.
You can see the growth rings. Here's the center of the tree right about over here.
Yeah.
The growth rings they're wider apart at the beginning. So the growth of the tree was faster at the beginning, or at least there was more wood growing in this cross section.
Okay.
At the beginning of the tree's life, and then it gets a little bit skinnier, right?
Right.
So going further out, and usually,
cool.
Yeah, and so that's basically the age of the tree. You can also see, look, there's a knot there.
Yeah.
Most likely those knots don't go all the way out to the outside of the tree.
Because it was a young tree when it had those knots.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the branch died when it was 10 years old. And then the tree just healed over top of that branch.
That poor branch.
So a lot of these, like this there's a tiny little pin knot right there.
Yeah.
That would have been something like that, just starting, and then
that branch died young.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does this affect the way I'm going to use this piece of wood? Well, obviously the knots. You don't want knots in your top.
You don't want knots in your top. But also it tells you how heavy it is too. So for example, if you have a top that has a lot of dark lines in it, most oftentimes that's a pretty heavy top. And I don't particularly like this. At least I find I get better sounding guitars with top wood that doesn't have as many dark lines in it.
Right. So it's not an aesthetic thing when you're looking for less lines. It's actually...
Well, I guess it's a combination too. But mainly it's acoustical.
Okay.
Acoustical? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Acoustical, sounds good.
Yeah, so that's in a spruce that's fairly easy to see. I feel like that's mainly it for that. Oh, cool. Yeah.
By the way, though, like, would I rather have the center wider ones, where it's growed faster, growing faster?
Yeah.
Or would I rather have the more outer, or is the central area, like which area? Like, what does it matter? Now I have noted
this is
that,
very well debated.
But I have noted that where the center of the tree is. And I should check this now that you've talked about it. I'm going to look and see if this happens more often, especially in spruce. There's more knots.
Yeah. When the trees,
Yeah, because it's putting out all these branches.
And then it gets tall.
And then it uses the top ones, and then you could have less on the bottom.
Yeah.
Right.
So, usually there's less branches on the lower parts of the tree.
So that's where, as we go through the growth, it actually becomes less and less knots.
Yeah. Interesting, eh?
Yeah.
But also the other, you were saying, which parts do you want, the wider grain or the
I noticed there's a lot of cracks out here.
Yeah, and that's just flats on right there. That's why, right? Because the grain lines are going this way, and it wants to crack from the center of the tree out.
Right.
So that's where that is. Wide grain or tight grain?
Yeah.
This is argued in the guitar making world.
Good.
And let's talk about it.
All right.
For a very long time, and I think it's still predominantly the thought process is the tighter the grain, the better.
Okay.
And now I have talked to multiple guitar makers who don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
And these are guitar makers that I would say aren't following tradition for the for the fact that
for the
it's
sake of tradition.
Yeah. And I have noticed that if I get a really tight grain top, usually it's quite a bit heavier.
Okay.
And I like to think of things in terms of mass. I do.
Not weight, but mass.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, there is a difference.
There is a difference.
Yes.
But I kind of use them interchangeably.
Cool.
Yeah, but I've found that wider grain is actually better, and I've heard some guitar makers say the wider the grain, the better for sound. I'm
starting to call maybe not.
Well, I don't know. I've never tried it.
Yeah, that's the thing. No, nobody's actually tested this out.
Yeah.
What was hearsay again?
Yeah. The other thing is with a really wide grain top.
Yeah.
It looks very much different.
Yeah.
Right.
But it also, is it more susceptible to cracking then?
Not necessarily.
No. Okay.
No. You would think that it would be less stiff.
Yeah.
Because there's less of those winter growth lines, which are a lot of the structure, because the winter growth lines act as little I-beams, right? They're all little...
That's the way I see it, even if it's not that way. That's the way it looks like.
Yeah, so if you put those further apart, then it's less stiff, right?
That's what I would think, yeah.
So, I don't know. I've never tried it, but I do think that the people that are saying that are not saying it because... They haven't tried it.
Right. Okay.
So cool. I think there is validity to that.
All right.
I just don't know that I want to make guitars that look like that with the wide grain spacing. But that's great because spruce around here grows really quickly.
Yeah.
And it usually does have wide grain spacing. This is white spruce from around here that's actually pretty tight grain. Which is kind of
nice. This thing's had a hard life.
Yeah.
But hopefully it will have a great life as a guitar.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the top.
Yeah, so then there's Redwood, which is another softwood.
Potential, yeah.
Yeah, this is curly Redwood, which is very visually striking.
Oh, it is.
When you put a finish on there, very visually striking.
Oh.
The one problem with curl is this was a test piece.
Yeah.
I decided to see how easily it would snap.
Yeah.
It took very little force to snap this because the grain is like this. Look at how steep that grain is. Basically, there is hardly any structure to this wood.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and the grain's going back and forth on this one, right? That's what the curl is. Yeah. That's basically straight across. Yeah. It's almost end grain. It's almost all end grain.
Wow.
Which is not great.
It does look cool though. I mean,
it looks very cool. So
let's see if I can get that curl to show up. Anyway. So
for an electric guitar top, it's perfect because there's a solid body under it.
Right.
That's holding it. For acoustic guitar, it works, but you have to do a lot of things to make it structurally stable, right? I made a guitar with curly Redwood top. I don't think I would do it again because it made me too nervous, but I did a lot of things to counteract this. Basically, depending more on the bracing and not on the structure of the top. And also actually using little bolts to bolt the bridge onto the plate, on the bridge plate.
So the bridge plate, this was basically doing nothing with the bridge.
Yeah, it was
except
just
for getting vibrated by it.
Yeah.
Huh. Now, and then on top of that,
I super glued the whole thing too, just because that stabilized it.
And then on top of that, I actually, interestingly enough, very intrigued and loved the look of the figure in there, would not want it on my guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing against this kind of figure, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I would agree now.
Just not crazy about it, but yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Just controversial.
On to
like that.
Mahogany. This is African mahogany.
All right.
And it gets a bit interesting because you can kind of tell where in the world a wood grows by the grain structure. So in this grain, this one's a little bit less obvious, but the grain has like varying directions. So it'll grow this direction and then it'll grow this direction. Basically the tree grows like this, and then it grows like this, and then it grows like this, and then it grows like this. So you get these, because of where the tree is growing and the seasons, it actually grows sort of back and forth, and that creates this interlocking grain, which is why mahogany is so stable.
Now, mahogany is grown in a place where there is no winter. It's wet and dry.
That's right.
So it's the wet and the dry seasons that.
So you'll see that those lines are less obvious in
definitely it's more evenly.
Climate. Yeah.
It's in a more even grain.
Yeah. But yeah, so that alternating of grain tells you sort of where it's from or around where it is in terms of the equator.
Okay.
And actually here I circled something on this. This is a scrap piece because I wasn't going to use it, but this is like a fracture or something.
You drew a guitar on there.
Yeah.
It's too bright there.
There's the fracture. I'm fairly sure it's a compression fracture. So
light out of there. Yeah.
A compression fracture. So oftentimes when the log is felled, you'll get this in the softer wood because it hits something or it basically crushes one side of the tree.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure that's what that is in this tree, but it makes this piece pretty much unusable. I think it would be outside of the guitar range, but I know that there's some instability there, and it looks like a compression to me. Okay, so that's mahogany.
Yeah, cool. And this is why mahogany it's fairly popular for necks or that kind of thing because of the
it's so stable because
grain.
The interlocking grain. Yeah.
So does that mean that it doesn't expand and contract as much?
Well, it does, but it's reinforcing itself in different directions, right?
It's not expanding and contracting in one direction.
Yeah.
It may be multiple directions and kind of.
Well, and it's so interwoven that maybe it doesn't expand as contract.
Overall, but maybe expand and contract against itself, like here and there.
Yeah.
You don't know, do you?
I guess I don't know for sure. But yeah, and then also the growth is usually very fast in these woods, right? This one's actually a bit slower, but a wood like Spanish cedar, for example, sometimes the growth rings can be like this far apart.
So we should put Spanish cedar on all the tops. You were just saying that's better.
I'm allergic to it though. Okay, so
speaking of woods we're allergic to.
this is a good one. Let's get the camera on this. You can see the growth rings are pretty wide right here, right? Wider than over here and over here.
Yep.
If you look at the cross section of a tree and you see that one side has wider growth rings, it means the tree was leaning. So that can create some instability in the lumber because when you have
this is actually bowed a little bit.
Yeah, that's just because
they cut it wrong
because it's flat sawn and so so that's not anything to do with that. You might not notice it in a piece like that. I don't know. It's not a major difference, but when a tree is leaning like that, there's and from what I understand, the wider growth rings are on the upper side of the lean, so on this side.
Okay.
On this side.
Yeah.
And on the underside of the tree, you get compression that happens, and that can create some issues with lumber because that lumber is compressed in there. When you cut it and use it in something, it can expand lengthwise 10 times as much.
Whoa.
Which
That's a lot.
Wood doesn't generally expand lengthwise very much at all, but 10 times as much is quite a bit. And you see Brazilian rosewood, stump wood used all the time nowadays because it's one of the easiest woods to find. One of the easiest sources of Brazilian rosewood. But that is compression. The curly stump wood is compression, and they're notorious for instability, that stump wood. So it's that idea where it's being compressed and then it has the ability to bounce back up. But that's just a tidbit of information. I don't know that it's super useful unless you have
the whole tree.
Because
if you know the source that it came from, like you were saying, if it comes from lower down, you're probably more likely to have some compression wood than the higher up. Maybe not though. Could bend up higher.
I don't know. Otherwise, what was I going to talk about with this one?
Flat sawn?
I don't remember.
All right. It is a beautiful piece of wood though.
Yeah. I don't know. I forget what I was going to say about this one. But so I do have a question though, like on one of these pieces. So you got this from somebody who, you got a lot of it at a decent price. Yeah. And so, but it's not ideal. It's not like you don't look at it and go, oh, that's perfect size for this or for that. Right. You have to work with it. Yeah. So when do you know whether it's worth working with that to make a back and sides? Wow, it's pretty.
Yeah, super pretty.
So let's make some back and sides out of it.
But what about the whole fact that it's flat sawn?
Yeah, the flat sawn.
Which is kind of what makes it pretty.
Yeah, it does make it pretty. Flat sawn is twice. It will shrink twice as much as quarter sawn would, which is not great, obviously. But another nice thing about having a plank like this that's been sitting for probably 50 years. If the plank doesn't have cracks in it,
then it's probably going to be okay.
It's probably going to be okay. Because it's experienced being in a garage in winter here.
It's done
for
its
40 years or whatever.
Shrinking.
I think it's safer to say that it's probably okay.
And it's definitely dried through.
Yeah, and it won't crack if the person that has the guitar takes care of the guitar.
Yeah, which we talked about before.
Yeah.
Take care of your guitars.
Yeah. So ideally, it would be nicer if it was quarter sawn. Right. But it's certainly usable. It does back and side.
But let's just say this does make you take a second thought about it because it's flat sawn.
Yeah.
You're not just going, that's it. Oh yeah, it's going to be perfectly fine. Yeah. You are a little more cautious.
Yeah, and it's also obviously it's narrower than a back, but you can make 4-piece backs, and they look just as pretty if you do them right. Yeah. And
cool. All right. Well, anything else that you want to discuss about wood today, or if you like and want to know more about wood, Zach is crazily passionate about it. Would love to dig in deeper, so ask him questions so that even if he doesn't know the answer, he would love to discover the answer.
Oh yeah.
This is something that you're really crazily passionate about. Yeah.
And I also outside of lumber form, I am also very interested in like the tree and analyzing the tree. Yeah. Because I do.
He is crazily.
I'll put a link to this sourcing sustainable woods because I do talk about a bunch of these things in that video, so I'll put that link up here. Actually, I'll put it down below too.
Cool.
But yeah, it's something I really like doing, and knowing about. I feel like it does help my guitar making somehow. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't.
I don't know. That's another discussion altogether.
Yeah.
Does it really matter?
Yeah, that'll be the next shop talk. Does it matter?
Does any of it matter?
Just it.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Shop talk number 32.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.